Lieutenant Robert Henry is an honorably retired law enforcement commander from Houston with over 35 years of public service experience. I'm Daniel Ziegler. I've been asking questions all my life, and on this show, I do my best to ask the questions that the public would like to know the answer to. The SAFESECURE 360 podcast is intended to provide you, the listener, with information about current events and ongoing societal challenges to help make your life safer. Thank you for listening. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There's safety in numbers. Well, Robert, thank you for sitting down with us today. Today we're talking about the shooting that happened at a high-rise in New York City and Manhattan. But I think a theme that we've been talking about throughout the entire series of this podcast is how mental health relates to these active shooter problems. If somebody hasn't seen a previous episode, could you tell us how is this related to mental health? This guy walks in and shoots people. Help explain to somebody that's never heard this idea before. That's a mental health problem.
It certainly is. Whether it's a transitory one, temporary, or a chronic one, if you make the decision, you equip yourself, you have a plan, you have a strategy, you have a manifesto, you know where you're going, you drive across the country, you have a impulse problem. You have something is wrong. And you have decided that the way to fix this, or the way to address this, or the way to share your pain and experiences with who you think are causing them, and then you do these things which result in multiple homicides and ultimately suicide, you have some serious mental health problems. But what's really important to know is how did this start, and what were the signs, and could we have prevented this? Now we're all in the analyzing part, and we're trying to figure out what happened. What did he say? How was he dressed? What did he carry? What type of gun? Where did he get it? I guess that's important, but isn't it really more important to plan and train and be ready for something like this and heighten your survivability? That's what I think. There'll be plenty of time to talk about what his background was, and if he had traumatic brain injury, or if he had something that was related that he blamed the NFL for. But what's the plan? Does your company have a plan about safety, about security, about active shooter, about intruders who are coming into your building or your school or your church or your place of work? What is that plan? And we'll talk about that more today.
We've talked a lot about these warning signs. This particular individual had 2 mental health crisis holds in 2022 and 2024, and that is related to the police putting an involuntary mental health hold on somebody. Could you explain how that process works a little bit?
Yes. Now, this is a California action that's taking place, so I'll talk about it in Texas. When an emergency mental commitment, or when the probate courts are petitioned to have an emergency mental commitment order issued by the probate judge, you have either exhibited conduct or you are engaging in conduct which is alarming. It could be designed to hurt someone else, yourself, or it could be just alarming, extremely alarming in nature, and the people who are the affiants, or the people that are applying for this mental health order, that you're asking the police or you're asking the courts to intervene and say, look, this guy needs to be evaluated. This guy needs to, or this lady needs to be evaluated for mental health, because they're exhibiting some really bad things. If the police believe you when they go out and interview you, they're going to take you into custody and take you into a mental health scenario where you can be screened and where you can be evaluated and perhaps treated prior to being released. If in fact you are going to be released, there could be some relief sought to keep you there longer. And the judge may agree that that's the right thing to do and may bind you over based on the psychiatric evaluation that occurs and your continuing course of conduct while you're there. So apparently this guy was a licensed security officer in the city of Las Vegas working at a casino, and apparently he had a concealed handgun permit from the state of Nevada, the city of Las Vegas, which is similar to Texas. You apply for this, and if you're granted it, it allows you certain liberties that are more specific than constitutional carry and are more broad than someone that doesn't have one. So to apply for this and to pass these background screens, a lot of the questions and a lot of the things that they ask you are about behavioral things. Have you been adjudged insane? Have you been a mental institution patient? Or have you currently addicted to narcotics or other types of things? Or they're trying to figure out on the front end, without a medical examination or evaluation, your self-described mental health history. And if you answer yes, I've been a mental patient, or yes, I'm addicted to these things, or you answer any of these questions, you're disqualified. So we did a podcast several months ago about we're missing the warning signs of mental illness, and I think those are red flag things. Like if someone is kicked out of the military because they exhibit dangerous conduct, shouldn't they, law enforcement, be told about that? So if this person applies for or has a concealed handgun permit, it can be evaluated and perhaps restricted, revoked, or suspended until that mental health condition stabilizes or is under control. So certainly if you have a license to carry and then you have exhibited conduct which someone and the judge or the police think it is in need of immediate psychiatric evaluation and takes you into custody, certainly that should affect your ability to possess and carry a concealed firearm. In my opinion, it would void that license and those privileges.
I think the main point of this is that we are missing warning signs. Regularly, what we're seeing is that there are political and non-political, there are random and non-random, there are all of these things that are happening where people are coming in and killing each other. And the main thing, what I don't hear a lot of people saying is the thing that's tying them all together is mental health problems. And what we keep saying on this show, the conclusion we keep reaching is there's some kind of breakdown about reporting mental health problems, whether it's the stigma of telling your friends about it, or a military doesn't want to release that because it could affect the person's future. So something's happening. Do you have any idea about any kinds of solutions? Let's talk about the high rise in particular later, but as far as addressing this mental health problem, what are some solutions towards registering that there's a problem with someone you know? Or how would we take all of this information that he had mental health holds and then he also had a concealed firearm? What steps do we start taking towards aiming towards this? And then more people can contribute to us. If you have ideas about this, help us try to work around this issue. But do you have any ideas initially about some steps we could take as a society or law enforcement or policy, any part of that?
Yes, there's many questions. So let me try to break this down. Historically, let's think about this. Less than a year ago, or about a year ago, the United Healthcare CEO was in New York City, Manhattan, actually, close to this location where this happened. And there was a plan in place by a shooter to wait for him, and then he, in fact, did shoot him and kill him, right? So contrast that with the guy that drove the Tesla vehicle into Las Vegas and set it on fire. They all have extravagant plans, and let's contrast that with the guy in New Orleans on New Year's Day who drove his car through a crowd of people, injuring and killing some people in that regard. These are strategically planned things that someone who is mentally ill equips themselves with the necessary means to do it. We just had a Walmart stabbing where I think 14 people got stabbed from one assailant in 3 minutes. So remember, the media controls what's important to you, and they decide for you. This story about the Manhattan shooter here will only last a couple of days. Why? Because the media doesn't think it's that important. They think it's important when it's going on because everybody's watching it and it's a big deal. But then after this, in a couple of days, it will fade. We'll have more things happen. There'll be a political influence from somewhere, or there'll be some weather event that occurs, and it quickly takes our attention away from here. But if you write a note, which they found on this Manhattan high-rise shooter, that says, "Study my brain, please. I'm sorry," that has suicidal outcomes written all over it. It is an instruction to someone who finds him dead, and then he's asking for that to be done. So, just like in all of these cases that I've just talked about, mental health, whether it's politically motivated or from religion or from some other type of method, is the common thread that runs through all of these. And there's going to be more. And there's going to be significantly more. And it's almost like a new norm that every week or so you see something on television, even if it's briefly, that someone has done this. So it's very important to look for warning signs, look for communications, look for broadcasts that these people make, look for extreme changes in their behavior, look for extreme attractions now to weapons, look for extreme polarization of political beliefs and overt statements about they're going to be sorry or watch what happens, things like that, because they're telling you in some instances that maybe that's their plan, that maybe they have decided that they're going to send a message. And they're going to, in these few cases, a couple of these cases we talked about, they picked Manhattan, the center of, people say, the universe, finance and art and commerce and all that. That's where they chose to do this. So he drove from Las Vegas all the way there. The shooter, the guy that ran over the people in New Orleans, drove from Texas. The guy with the Tesla drove from California. So they're going through not real spontaneous moments where, like, road rage would take over. You did something to me, and all of a sudden it just completely pushed me over the edge mentally, and I do a reaction. These folks are not spontaneous. They have planned this out. And if they're predisposed to suicide, you cannot negotiate with them. They're probably not going to surrender until they accomplish their goal. So when you have someone that's predisposed to suicide, law enforcement has very limited choices except to stop them before they kill. SAFESECURE 360. We are a security consulting group located in the Woodlands, Texas. We assist our multiple clients by reducing the risk, loss, and reputation impact. We also do full security assessments on their facilities, large churches, large private schools in Texas, and we want to help you. Take a look at our website, SAFESECURE360.com.
Earlier you mentioned that if you create a policy and practice and do training, you might have a chance of heightening your survivability. Let's focus in on high-rise apartments specifically. What would it look like, best case scenario for a high-rise? What does their policy look like? What do their training courses look like? How do they prepare for the reality is events like this are possible?
A high-rise has a negative and a positive for crime prevention and for responses to crime events. Number one, it appears to have security because it's tall and there's only limited ways in, and you can't get in the parking garage typically because of barricades or gates or things like that. Typically there's officers or security people or a concierge or a limited access to even the lobby. So you think, oh, well, that's a really good and safe place. I'm 27 floors above the crime. Well, maybe you are until the crime comes to you. So I think that high-rises pose significant threats because, number one, fires and smoke events are vertically developing usually, and you have a high risk of being in a fire or if an explosion occurs or industrial accident, you have limited ways out. You have a stairwells and you have an elevator, and that's about it. You may have multiple of each, but if they're compromised or if they're in some way part of the threat because the suspects are using those, then that's not an alternative for you. So if we're the police and we're responding to an incident at a high-rise, number one, we have no idea how many people are in that high-rise. We don't know. There's no census. There's no way to know. Does apartment 1201 normally has 2 parents and 3 children in it? We don't know if they're home. We don't know if they're there. We just don't know. So if we're clearing that building and someone refuses to answer the door or they're incapacitated and they can't answer the door, we just don't know. So a fire in a high-rise, bad thing. Evacuation from a high-rise could be very tough if you're on a higher floor. What if you're mobility challenged? What if you're visually challenged? What if you have auditory problems? What if you have small children and the elevators are compromised and you're going to try to get down? That could be many flights of stairs to get to that location. So I think that heightening security in a high-rise begins with who can get in. And if you have a robust security system that only allows certain individuals who are cleared as residents or guests or registered contractors can get in, you're in a lot better shape. Because when it's time to get out, that's when it becomes a challenge. So my position is that there should be evacuation training for high-rise residents, whether it's in a residential setting or a business. And what would you do if we had to leave? And then secondarily, what would you do if there was an intruder and we locked the building down? How would you know it's locked down? Is there a way to mass communicate with all the floors? What if the phone system's not working? How do we communicate that lockdown scenario? How would we implement run, hide, fight? Difficult to run when you're on the 27th floor. Hide, sure, that works out good, and possibly fight. But I think that, and we work with our high-rise clients to talk to them about what to do and prepare to heighten their safety.
The issue different from a workplace. At a workplace, it's more common to do fire drills and workplace violence training and things like that. But in a high-rise, the residents aren't necessarily up to date on what the management's doing day to day. They're sort of separated from that. Those are 2 different entities. And the way that one way the management could relay all this information to the residents is by handing them a safety policy and then having them do some instruction or training together, or offering them the possibility of doing that with them. If you were a resident of a high-rise or a group living place like that, an apartment center, high-rise, something like that, how would you go about asking what your security policy is? And if you were looking for a new place to live, how would you talk about that in the interview?
That's a good question. If I was a high-rise manager or owner, when you apply to live there, or if you apply to have your business there, located there, I would start off with introducing you to our safety and security emergency response procedures. I would start off that way. And I would either have a video that I would have you watch, and I would supplement that with some written materials in the beginning. I would then encourage you to teach your family and to have your staff of your office also do an in-service training about these things. They're very important. But as time goes by, new employees come, other employees leave. This training was initially done. It's not enough. You need to have additional recurrent training that can be done in an email from the property management group or the owners to all the tenants saying, hey, look, a reminder, in the wake of this New York incident in Manhattan, We're very concerned about your safety. We want you to have a really safe and secure environment here. We value you as a tenant. Please consider the following 5 things, and then remind them about what to do if you have to evacuate, what you do if you have to shelter in place or lock yourself down, what to do if you're at the pool and something goes wrong, what to do if you're in the parking garage and something goes wrong. What do you do? What's the best thing you can do to reduce risk? So I think it's very important to train your residents, whether they're residential residents or commercial residents or commercial business, because they're all susceptible to the same types of risk.
We regularly, like you said earlier, we regularly work on policy and procedures for people like that and conduct training. So if we can help you, your company, your apartment complex, just reach out to us. We're happy to help guide you towards something that could be a more safe and secure place for you. Now, in addition to the residents, each high-rise building will have faculty and staff. That may include contracting out a security guard. But how does the high-rise think of their faculty and staff altogether, and what role do they play in emergent situations from fire to intruder? How does the faculty and staff play into all this?
It all starts with policy, and it all starts with buy-in from your leadership and a requirement that everybody in this organization that manages this building, in whatever role they have, take safety and security seriously. A well-written policy, and we write them, for high-rise security, a smoke event, a fire event, an evacuation, an intruder, active shooter. All of those things are policy-driven documents that are as a live document that can be edited and changed as things change. Technology changes and techniques change. So getting ahead of this is very smart. So then training your staff, everyone is important. A porter or a janitor or a maintenance person or a facilities person can make the difference between life and death. They're very important and very valuable. The facilities people are, the concierge level people are, the security people are, because think about the elevators. They're a very key component in high rises. Elevators. Overlooked, but people are mad. I'm having to wait so long for my elevator to get here. Okay. If the elevator is utilized by an intruder, facilities or security or the concierge typically has control of those elevators. You could stop that elevator. You could return that elevator to the ground floor. You certainly would know where that elevator stopped if you're tracking an intruder who got past you or who injured or shot or incapacitated your lobby security, and they get to the elevator and they start going up. Where are they? Can you stop them? Can you return it? Facilities also has another important role in that they can typically talk through the fire panel and have their communications go out on every floor of the building, not just to a specific office or to a specific residence. However, they go through the lobbies of all the buildings. So that could be a communication method that the police could use to talk to this suspect now who is in your building with bad intentions. They also could perhaps operate the sprinkler system. They could also possibly operate fire doors from this command center of facilities. All these things are valuable to consider if you're trying to impact and influence and stop an intruder's plan.
So far, we've honed on 2 points, basically, that we are regularly, the news is showing us that we are regularly missing the warning signs of extreme mental health mixed with violent tendencies. And these keep becoming news stories. The best way we know how to talk about a solution is to prepare your family, friends, business, whatever you have influence over, to prepare for these events by coming up with good, solid plans about what would happen if there was a tornado nearby or if a police chase went a mile away. whatever it is, all the way up to an intruder in your location, preparing and developing a policy and training for it is a really good idea so that you're not having to all of a sudden figure out what to do. Are there any other ideas? I wish I could ask a question that would lead us down the road of solving these problems. But for now, talking about how people can prepare themselves and their businesses is a really good way to go that direction. Are there other ideas people should become aware of when living around groups of people in a high-rise, or when at work, or around their friends? Or is there any other idea that would be helpful to people that they could learn something from this?
In this Manhattan high-rise event, I think the shooter was trying to get up to the NFL to try to share his pain and teach them a lesson, because he perceived they didn't help him with his traumatic brain injury or whatever it is that he had, CTE from his football playing. So in any of these events, when it's over, someone is going to analyze what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and they're going to blame someone. Someone is going to be blamed, or perhaps multiple people are going to be blamed because of what they did not do or what they were indifferent about. That's very important not to be on that side. It's important that you did reasonable and effective methods to try and make things smarter, better, more efficient, safer for everybody. It's hard to overcome that if you tried and you had policy and you did trainings and you had dialogue and you reminded people about this, and still tragic things occur. It's an unfortunate outcome. However, did you try? Did you do what you could do? And if you did, I think you're in a good place. So think about these high-rise scenarios. We'll be glad to help you with that process.
Well, thank you, Robert. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing information that can help prepare us. This is what we can do, is that we can offer you all information on what's happening, and then maybe something that could make you feel and be a little bit more safe and secure. Our goal is to share this with you and to help provide a safer place for the world. If we can help you, your family, your company, the place you live, if we can help you in any way develop a safety and security plan, or come look at your site, or talk to your supervisors or leadership about it, we're happy to help. Just reach out to us. Our website, SAFESECURE360.com. As we say every week, there is safety in numbers. Thank you so much for spending time with us and watching and listening. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and we will see you in the next episode. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. Thank you. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. The information provided in our podcasts is for general information uses only and is not intended as legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own. Always consult with a qualified professional before making safety and security decisions. For more information about this topic, check out our website at SAFESECURE360.com.